What's up, guys? This is your boy Samoan Fan 101, and today, before I get into the rest of my video, if you guys noticed, for the longest time, for some reason, my camera seemed to be on reverse. I don't know what was wrong with the webcam. I don't know why it was like that. So I actually fiddled around with it a little bit, and now I finally got it back to normal. Because like before, you like the writing here, the Bullet Club shirt, it would be backwards. You would have the B over here and the T over here, and vice versa with the club name, and everything would be in reverse. Now I have it back on all in order. It does feel weird because for the longest time I've been doing my videos in reverse, and I just thought it was the web camera, but I'm like, that can't be right. So I fiddled around with it, and I realized, yeah, it was, for some reason, I had the flipped version. I don't know why. So, with that being said, let's get into the actual. So if everything seems to be in reverse, that's because it's actually back to normal and it's been reversed before. So you might get a little bit of whiplash if you go watching the videos before this and the videos from here on. So just keep that in mind. That's why my window seems to be over here rather than over there. Okay, so here we are today. We're going to be reviewing Black Panther, which was directed by Ryan Coogler and came out February of 2018, for the most part, worldwide. Now, Ryan Coogler is a guy who is a relatively young director, very similar to Taika Waititi. He's only 32 years old, and he's only done a few movies up to this point, although they were successful. He did Fruitvale Station, which starred Michael B. Jordan as the he was the guy. If you remember Fruitvale Station, that was based on that one fucked up story where a black man was in real life. It was based off a real life situation where a black man by the name of Oscar Grant III, he was arrested for getting into some kind of fight. He was only a young man. He barely had a kid by that point, and he was shot in the back by white police officers, and it's just a really fucked up situation, and he died later at the hospital. He's the same guy. He directed Creed, all starring Michael B. Jordan. Black Panther, who's the main villain, was Michael B. Jordan, and Creed 2, he didn't direct, but he was an executive producer on Creed 2, of course, starring Michael B. Jordan. Clearly, these two guys are attached at the hip, which I find very funny. So Ryan Coogler, he is talented. He is talented because he's made four pretty good films. Out of all four films, the one that's on the lower level of quality, honestly, I'd have to put Black Panther, because I know, and not saying it's a bad movie. It's not. It is a good movie, but Black Panther, if you guys know, was, especially by the mainstream media, just blew up. Many people saying it's the first black superhero film. It's the first this. It's the first that. It's the first all this shit. And while it might be the first on this kind of scale, considering, you know, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's only a month or two before the release of Avengers: Infinity War, then yes, if you want to put it that way, then yeah, it is kind of big in that regard. And kind of the first of its kind especially for a major black African American cast. But for some people to say this is the first the first African American or first black superhero film, they're fucking lying to you, or they're just rewriting history so they can virtue signal. Keep in mind, some of the first black superhero films came out back in 1997 and 1998. Spawn, Steel, and Blade were the first three. Now, to be fair, Spawn wasn't a big success, and Steel was just absolute garbage. So, and we did actually get an African-American female superhero film later on with Catwoman, a film that was just as equally garbage, and honestly, in my opinion, is probably worse than Steel. But like I said, the one diamond in the rough, you had Blade. You had the first Blade film, you had Blade 2, which was even better, and granted the third film, Blade Trinity, wasn't that good, but you had the first two Blade films as great black superhero films that were also based in comic books. And then people look at this and say, really? Like, oh, and I'm like, really? This is the first black African-American film, not fucking, not, God, not, Blade, that's very disrespectful to someone like Wesley Snipes, who released his film 20 years before Black Panther, and yet they didn't get that nonsense then. But that's because back then, everything wasn't about identity politics and virtue signaling and all that shit. It was all about making good films, and especially off the back of terrible films like Steel and Batman and Robin, and and despite not being horrible, the underwhelming success of the underwhelming reception, I should say, for Spawn. Blade was kind of the one that said, okay, we can be just as good while still being fun and goofy. Well, not goofy for the most part, though there was a couple funny lines here and there. But yeah, that I just wanted to get that out of the way, because this film it completely blew up. Even the directors and the actors didn't think that it would blow up. They just wanted to make a good comic book film, as they should. They shouldn't go out of their way to virtue signal for a film, unlike Brie Larson. They should go out there just to try to make a good movie. So, because this was kind of going on the back previous to Avengers Infinity War, because of that, and the fact that this blew up in mainstream media, a lot of people went to see this film in America, more so than they did in other countries. In fact, believe it or not, in places like China, it was kind of an underwhelming success. But in America, this movie just completely blew up, and I think even countries in Africa did too. This film had a $200 million budget and had a box office of $1.3 billion. To put it in perspective, that film made almost as much, if not more so, the amount of money, because I don't have the numbers with me, more so than the same amount of money that Iron Man 3 did. That film was the first film after the first Avengers movie, and starred Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, someone who had already proven how great he is in the films, with Chadwick Boseman still to kind of prove himself, this being his second film, rather than being his fourth. So, yeah, you did have all that. So that was a big monster hit. Now, does the reception, and granted, and some people also say this is the greatest film of all time. Well, none of them made it all the time. They say this is one of the best films of the year. It was nominated for an Oscar for Best Picture during the Oscar Awards not too long ago. It had the backing of Access Media and the mainstream. People were giving this film 10 out of 10, and calling it one of the best films all year, and people putting this in top 10 lists, and I'm like, it's a good film. But I think a lot of people get caught up in the hype of it and overrate it, because there are some flaws in this film. So now that I've gotten the first 8.5 minutes out of the way going off on that, let's get to the actual plot. Okay, so what's the plot? So the film that's so different and so, revolutionary compared to every Marvel film, starts back with a flashback. Yep. Revolutionary, alright. And that's not a knock on the MCU or the film, that's just a knock on people saying it's revolutionary when it's really not. So there's actually two flashbacks. Okay, so we get a brief flashback. I don't know what happened. I think I had barbecue chips earlier, so give me a break. We got to a brief flashback that, with very, very nice looking, effects, with cutting back to thousands of years ago when a meteorite struck the heart of Africa. A meteorite, of course, containing vibranium. 5 African tribes waged war over the vibranium, but then one person injected what they called a heart-shaped herb that was affected by the vibranium, and it gave them superhuman abilities such as strength, maybe not, a little bit of speed, very similar to what the super soldier would end up being many, many years later with Captain America. And because of inhaling the herb, they became the first Black Panther. And he united 4 of the 5 tribes into a nation that they call Wakanda. The one tribe that did not join was the Jabari tribe, and they just didn't agree with them for whatever reason. That's never explained. Doesn't really need to be. So over the centuries, the Wakandans have used the vibranium to create the greatest advanced technology of the world, especially since they're in a quote-unquote third world country. Wakanda is actually has been far superior to all the technology on Earth way back then, and even by today's standards, despite the fact that in the film universe, I mean, catching up, with technological advances like the Iron Man suit, the Ant-Man suit, which of course the Ant-Man suit was being kept hush hush. The Ant-Man suit was. For the most part, the Wakandans were far and away the most advanced group of people on the planet. Not Star Wars level, but definitely advanced enough where it could be possible, but it's just fall short of it. So, okay, that's the flashback number 1. Flashback number 2 cuts back to 1992. Apparently someone really, really enjoyed the Royal Rumble that year because that's the best. That was the best ever Royal Rumble match. So here's the thing. Here's what's going on. We cut to a place in California. I forget what it's called. The city, I mean. And 2 men who seemingly are not doing much. They are seemingly doing the drug scene and everything. And then all of a sudden shows up the Black Panther, who in this case is actually King T'Chaka, who we saw near the beginning of Captain America Civil War as a much older man. King T'Chaka comes in as Black Panther along with his 2 guards, the female guards. Oh yeah, it's in Oakland, California, I just remembered. Oakland, California. He visits one of the men who apparently is his brother called N'Jobu. That's N with like an apostrophe and then the word Jobu. He visits his brother N'Jobu, and after talking with him, it's revealed that Ulysses Claw, who of course we saw in Avengers Age of Ultron, stole vibranium from Wakanda and somehow found out exactly where to hit them at exactly the right points and stole a good amount of vibranium from them. At least a good amount for him, not for Wakanda, who seemingly have endless amounts. And T'Chaka accuses N'Jobu of stealing the vibranium, and apparently it's revealed that the partner, that seemingly is just a regular American, is actually a guy by the name of Zuri, who also is Wakandan, who is sent to investigate and to look after N'Jobu, but not tell him who he really is. And he confirms what King T'Chaka feared was that N'Jobu was in fact responsible in some way for the attack. We then cut to the present day, where this film, even though it's released in 2018, it falls almost immediately after the events of Captain America Civil War, even more so than Spider-Man Homecoming, which took place only a few months after the events of that film. This film probably takes place at most maybe weeks after the events of that film. So yeah, you had King T'Chaka, who died, of course, during the events of Civil War, and T'Challa returns to Wakanda to be formally announced king. And on the way, he takes his childhood friend and ex-girlfriend, a woman named Nakia, with her, who was also undercover, so that way she could, basically join them for the ceremony. He and Okoye, who in this film is played by can't pronounce this chick's last name right, Guerrera, like Guerrero, but different, I guess. So I'm gonna say Guerrera, and Okoye, who is a leader of the Dora Milaje Regiment, which is basically kind of similar to the Valkyrie, in the fact that they're all female warriors. Although unlike the Valkyrie, most of them are still alive and not murdered by a raging lunatic like Hela was. So you had Nakia, who is an undercover agent. She came in. She has a thing with T'Challa, but not only her, but also her his younger sister, I should say, Shuri, played in this film by Letitia Wright, and his mother, Ramonda, who in this film is played by Angela Bassett, or is it Bassett? I'm just gonna say Bassett. It's easier for me. I'm American. So what? Anyway, so they go in for the ceremony. The ceremony allows him to, and basically what they do is all the tribes come together, including the Jabari tribe, and they can choose to challenge T'Challa for the right of the King of Wakanda. And he does this, of course, like, wait, hold on, he's Black Panther, that's unfair. Well, he inhales some kind of herb or drink or something, which takes away his powers and makes him completely 100% human. And he fights M'Baku, who is the leader of the Jabari tribe. T'Challa wins, but spares M'Baku's life, and persuades him to yield rather than allow him to die, because apparently he sees that there's potential in T'Challa, in M'Baku, I mean. So he's formally announced king, but very soon afterward, and meanwhile, should I say, Ulysses Claw, who of course is once again played by the great Andy Serkis from Age of Ultron, is his accomplice by the name, we don't know his name. He's just Michael B. Jordan for the moment. They steal a Wakandan artifact from a London museum, and apparently this gets word back to Wakanda, and T'Challa as well goes on a mission in order to find and capture Claw and bring him back to Wakanda. T'Challa is accompanied by Nakia, who they travel to Busan, South Korea, because they need her undercover skills, and Okoye, who is basically T'Challa's kind of like a right-hand woman, but basically her personal bodyguard, if there is one. That's what Okoye is. Before they leave, however, Okoye's lover, a man by the name of Wakabi, urges him to bring Claw back alive. Wakabi is the leader of the Border Tribe, one of the 5 tribes that live in Wakanda. And Wakabi wants him to come to bring Claw back because A, his father never did, T'Chaka, and B, Wakabi's parents, that attack that was mentioned near the beginning of the film, Wakabi's parents were killed in that attack, and he's held a grudge against Claw ever since. And he really wants Claw back. Like, really bad. Either kill him or bring him back. So they go undercover. They find Agent Everett K. Ross, who of course was in the CIA agent Ross, who was in Civil War, who's still kind of acting like a dick, but does, slowly but surely, like, soften up over the film, or is exposed to all this. They work together in order to find Claw, in order to capture Claw. After a chase scene through South Korea, they eventually do. They bring him back to the CIA because the CIA also wants him. Claw reveals to Ross that Wakanda's image of just being a poor country that happens to have one strong warrior is actually a front, and for a technologically advanced civilization, and even goes as far as to ask him, ask T'Challa, ask the king over there, what his suit is made out of. And of course alluding to the fact that it's made out of vibranium, saying that their whole civilization is based on vibranium. Claw is eventually broken out by his accomplices that we see earlier in the film, and one of them was revealed to have a very similar ring to what T'Chaka had in Civil War, and we see T'Challa putting on. He's wearing the ring around his chest, and of course this character is played by Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan breaks him out, but before they leave to go on a plane, Michael B. Jordan's character, who is revealed to be Eric Stevens, a man by the name of Eric Stevens, he kills one of the members. He kills a woman who he's shown to be kissing with So clearly they must be like boyfriend-girlfriend kind of deal. Kills her because Claw is using her as a shield, and then goes to kill Claw, but before he kills her, he reveals himself to be Wakandan. So, and then of course this leads to Ross figuring out that one of the accomplices Claw has is in fact Eric Stevens, who worked with the CIA, and has nicknamed himself Killmonger because of just how deadly he is, as well as all the scars that he's inflicted upon himself, for each kill that he's had. Now he knows where the secret location to Wakanda is, because they have like this force field and it's just forest, but underneath the forest is actually a field for Wakanda, the civilization. I mean, he brings Claw's body to Wakanda and confronts. He confronts. God, I'm forgetting his name. T'Challa for the first time, and reveals himself not only to be Wakandan, but also to be the son of N'Jobu. Yes, N'Jobu had a son while spending time in America, and it's revealed through flashbacks that throughout the film that N'Jobu not only what did he find out about that he helped Claw, but he also reveals to T'Chaka in the flashback, another one, that he has stood by for too long. He sees so many Africans like them, or African Americans, go through hardships, and he's like, fuck this, we have to do something. And the way he sees it is to use vibranium as weapons, give them the tools they need, so that way Wakanda can have a bigger reach throughout the world, and to help their own people. Basically, by in essence, warring the world. And because of the hardships that N'Jobu has had to witness, that's what's changed him. And Zuri, and Zuri is actually right before, because before the confrontation between T'Challa and Eric Stevens, who reveals his true name as to be N'Djaka. N'Djaka. Before that, he kind of deduces the ring that his father has. It looks exactly the same as the ring that he witnessed Claw's assistant, during his escape. And it forces Zuri, because Zuri was the one. He's the only other person who knew about it. Zuri is the one who, under oath of the king, because now T'Challa is the king, reveals to him that N'Jobu tried to shoot Zuri, but T'Chaka killed N'Jobu in defense of Zuri. So he killed his own brother just to save Zuri's life. Zuri, by the way, is played by Forrest Whitaker in this film, who, by the way, is a much better Zuri in this film than he is whatever the fuck his character's name was in Rogue One. I forget his name. It doesn't matter. Basically, he does better in this film than he did in that film. Just want to make that sure. So Zuri reveals to him what happened. So now T'Challa knows. And after speaking in Wakandan dialect and revealing his true name and the fact that he is N'Jobu's son, the council has no choice but to allow T'Challa to allow N'Djaka to kill. I'm just gonna call him Killmonger because that's his. It's easier for me to say. They allow Killmonger to reveal to basically not only that he's N'Jobu's son, but to exercise his blood right for the mantles of both Black Panther and the King of Wakanda. And really, and aside from T'Challa, they really have no other choice. It's up to him or not. T'Challa agrees. They have a fight. His powers of Black Panther are once again taken away, and the fight is equal at first. But then T'Challa just gets his ass kicked by Killmonger's superior training. And Zuri tries to interfere in the duel, save his life, and reveals that, yeah, I'm the reason your father's dead, technically. So Killmonger kills Zuri, and seemingly kills T'Challa, after throwing him off the waterfall where the ritual fight is located, and because of that, Nakia, Shuri, and the mother, Ramonda. I keep wanting to say Ramonda. It's Ramonda. Ramonda. They basically jump ship and they escape before Killmonger can do anything about them. Okiye does not, because she has to be loyal to the throne no matter who stands upon it. That's her sworn duty. And so Nakia and the others escape. They get one of the heart-shaped herbs back after they use it on Killmonger, and he sees his father again. Because not only does the herb give you the powers of Black Panther, but it allows you to see your ancestors, or most usually your father. And in this case, he sees his father back in the room where they used to live, back where he died. Now because of that, and now after that, he has all the heart-shaped herbs burned. But before that happens, Nakia steals one of the herbs, and they originally planned to go to the Jabari tribe and give the herb to M'Baku, seeing M'Baku is their only way to stop Killmonger from doing something worse. And in fact, he does do something worse. He intends to do what his father tried to do, which is send vibranium weapons all throughout the world and use them to kind of take over, so that way Wakanda can be ruled under one people, like an empire. So they originally tried to give the herb to M'Baku, but it's revealed that T'Challa is alive, but barely, because they found him in the river, they put him under ice, and they can't move him anywhere because, well, he'll die if they do. And so he gives him the herb, he still lives, he confronts his father in the ancestral plane about what his father did, because he left the boy there, or he left Killmonger there when he was only a small boy. So that really, because obviously that traumatized him, and that caused him to hate the family that rule over Wakanda. So he confronts them, says he must be stopped. Basically, they gather up a resistance between the Dora Milaje after Killmonger goes too far. Since the duel technically is not over yet, Black Panther did not he did not yield, and nor is he dead. And instead of fighting him himself, they just fight like in a war. The Dora Milaje fight against the much larger and possibly superior border tribe led by W'Kabi, who has since then lost all sense of loyalty to T'Challa because he failed to bring back Claw, and feels resentful over this, and now feels a true loyalty to Killmonger, because he actually did kill Claw and brought back his body on top of it. So a bunch of shit goes down. The Jabari tribe, while initially refusing to help T'Challa, eventually do agree to help him fight back against the border tribe. They're eventually defeated. Meanwhile, Killmonger takes up one of the Black Panther suits, fights against the actual Black Panther, and they fight each other in the train area, which affects both their suits because there's like a regenerative process. It's a more advanced suit than what we saw in Civil War and even the beginning of the film. And eventually, T'Challa outsmarts Killmonger and is able to stab him, but he barely lives. Before his death, he sees Wakanda during either the sunrise or sunset, noticing that it's beautiful. T'Challa tries to find a way to spare his life and thinking that they can heal him, but instead, Killmonger refuses to be healed, rather dying than being incarcerated. And he even makes the analogy that, look at our ancestors who chose to jump on board the ships and drown to death rather than live in bondage. And so he takes the knife out, or the spear tip or whatever, and it ends up killing him. Because of this shit, because of everything that happened, and the whole message, one of the messages of the movie, T'Challa says, "Fuck this. We can't let people outside of Wakanda suffer while we do absolutely nothing when we totally have the power." So instead, he has they start the Wakandan outreach program, and the first building to be used this is actually the same building where Njobu died, and it's of course it's gonna be run by Nakia and Shuri. It's revealed in a mid-credit scene that T'Challa appeared before the United Nations to reveal Wakanda's true nature to the whole world, and the post-credit scene shows Shuri helping out Bucky Barnes, as of course Bucky Barnes was taken to Wakanda at the end of Civil War by Captain America. So okay, it took me a while to get through the plot because of all the shit that went on, but it's not that complicated of a film. I just complicate it because I go through and explain the entire plot. I don't go through the quick step-by-steps unless it's a brand new film that came out in theaters. So what do I think of this film? It is a good film. It is not a great film. It's not even like high 8 out of 10 category. Honestly, if there's any film to compare this film to, it's Iron Man's 2 and 3, which, while good films, had their own set of problems that really held it back. Same thing here. But let's get it. I know some people are gonna probably rip down my throat saying, "Oh, you're a racist. You're a 7 out of 10. You can't love this film because you're a racist." I'm like, fuck you. It's a good film, but it's not. It's completely overblown and overrated. What do I like about the film? Well, I do still like Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. I like the arc, because some people say, "Oh, the character's boring in this film." I don't think the character's boring. They kind of go through the Iron Man 2 thing. And that's what I like about... That's one thing I do like about this movie. They kind of take a plot line from Iron Man 2, where the two people that hate each other, Ivan Vanko and Tony Stark, they only hate each other because of the business that their fathers did together, and something bad happened. In the case of Iron Man 2, it was revealed that Ivan Vanko's father worked on the arc reactor technology with Howard Stark. But then he was found out to want to use it to gain profit and fame rather than use it for actual technology's sake. And Ivan Vanko's father passed on his hatred of Howard Stark and what happened there to Ivan. Now, the difference, of course, is that the Vankos, or should I say, Ivan Vanko's father had every right to. They had every right to have been thrown out the way he was, because again, he was going to use it for fame and recognition rather than just to make newer tech. In this film, it's perplexingly backwards, where the people who are on the wrong side of things in terms of are actually the people who got fucked over. But this time you actually feel for them. Vanko got fucked over because his father did something completely shitty and stupid. Killmonger got fucked over, not because his father tried to do something completely stupid, but because they tried to do something that, while they didn't go about it the right way, their motives are completely pure. It's just the way they went about it that made them the bad guys. And it caused T'Chaka to kill Njobu, and again, their hatred for what happened to Njobu was passed along to Killmonger, to the point where now he hates the royal family for what they did to him and his father, and is held back ever since then. Michael B. Jordan, and speaking of Killmonger, I gotta mention this. Let's face it, this film would not be nearly as compelling if it wasn't for Michael B. Jordan's portrayal of Killmonger. He makes this movie. Killmonger is absolutely great. He's played by a great actor, Michael B. Jordan. He's got a great backstory. He's got a cool-ass look, whether it's the armored military-style look or the golden Black Panther-style look. He always pops. He's different. He speaks different from the way Wakandans speak. And here's the thing. While you don't agree with how he goes about things and wants to take over everything, you do see that, yeah, underneath all that evil shit is a guy who is fostered a lot of hate, but not because of his own doing, because the family, T'Chaka, did something horrible and ended up creating a monster out of it by simply leaving Killmonger there. They didn't take him to Wakanda to tell him what happened and how things went down. They left him there because they were so insecure about people finding out and also because they're afraid of anybody who's an outsider. They don't like outsiders a whole hell of a lot. So when you have someone who's an outsider, they're like, we can't take him because he's an outsider. We see him as that group of people, not as part of us. And Killmonger fostered a real hatred for those people since then. Martin Freeman as Agent Ross did a great job in the role of Ross, and actually changed his character to soften up a little bit. Danai Gurira did a great job as Okiye, and with the exception of like 1 or 2 lines in the film, I very much enjoyed Okiye's character. Speaking of Okiye, you also have her lover, Wakabi, who is played by Daniel Kaluuya. We don't see him a whole heck of a lot, but we understand why he feels the way he feels. Again, his parents died during the Ulysses Claw attack, so no wonder why the guy wants his head on a friggin' platter. So, yeah, so you have that. Winston Duke as M'Baku. I loved Winston Duke as M'Baku. I thought he was great in this film. Again, you don't see him a whole hell of a lot, but when you do see him, he's so great at his job. Angela Bassett does a pretty good job as Ramonda. Forrest Whitaker does a really good job as Zuri. Andy Serkis, even though he dies about halfway through the film, does a really good job as Ulysses Claw. Very entertaining, very funny on top of that. I'll get to Nakia and Shuri later because I've got problems with those two. Big ones. And of course, we do see some people return. We do see John Caney as T'Chaka from Captain America Civil War. We also see Sterling K. Brown playing Njobu in the flashback. And of course, at the very end, we also see Sebastian Stan as an uncredited appearance as Bucky Barnes. So you have that. So yeah, you got a lot of good actors in this film. You have the culture, which, look, in my opinion, there are a couple outfits that do, or a couple moments where the culture does get a little bit too much, where I'm thinking, okay, that they gotta change. One of them was, now granted this is not a criticism, but one of the elders and the people have these green things like around their mouths and ears, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Are those supposed to be piercings of some kind? Like, what is that? I'm like, that really is just so odd to me. And that's not a criticism. I know it's tradition and stuff, but, I mean, can somebody explain exactly what the fuck those things are? Because I don't know. There's one moment where Nakia is dancing for the, near the beginning, and I found this so ridiculous when I had to go back and watch it. Nakia is dancing for the ritual of T'Challa becoming king of Wakanda, and I understand the dancing is different from, you know, regular contemporary Western dancing, but there was this one dance Nakia was doing where she had the rings and he's like, and with her feet and everything. And I'm like, what the hell is she doing? She looks like she's constipated and is ready to take a shit. Now, I understand a lot of the clothing and stuff is different, and I'm cool with that. All the marks on people's faces, I'm totally cool with that. I understand. So, that I don't mind. I don't mind the hairstyles, as ridiculous as they might be. It's tradition. It's African culture. I'm not going to go against it. Just the green things on the people's lips and stuff, and Nakia doing that constipation dance. I just had to mention that. So, so yeah, there's that. It has, let's say, and like I said, the biggest thing why this movie succeeds is because of Killmonger. Killmonger, without it not being in this film would not have been nearly as compelling, would have been okay at best. So you had a lot of good actors. You had some pretty entertaining action sequences. You had the whole look of Wakanda, the way it visually looks, it just looks great. Wakanda, they really got Wakanda to look absolutely amazing in this film. But I think they kind of overdid it on the budget, and I'll explain why in a little bit. So, So we have a lot of positives. Some of the dialogue writing is actually really, really good. Some of it. Not all of it. And yeah, let's get to the negatives. Because yes, there are some negatives. My opinions, not yours. So let's get, and maybe you'll agree with me. But these are my opinions. Lupita Nyong'o. I have no idea how to say her last name. Lupita, whatever the fuck, who plays Nakia. I did, now, she doesn't come across as a negative person. I do kind of like the character. I say kind of, because I have one major problem with this character, and that's she doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. She's a war dog, and war dogs are basically undercover spies for Wakanda. She's from the River Tribe, but there's one problem with her character, is that she doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. She doesn't impact the plot a whole lot. The only time she really does something that's important to the plot is during the South Korea scene where they go to try to find Ulysses Claw. Now she's undercover, so she of course would know this. But aside from that, all the things that she could have done, she's basically the Mary Jane Watson, the Sam Raimi's Mary Jane Watson of Black Panther. That is not a good comparison to make, because look at Mary Jane for the majority of the Sam Raimi films. She was hot, yeah. She was a love interest, yeah. But she was basically a tool. She was there for someone for the main hero to save. She was there for someone for them to cope with. She was there to put them back on their feet, to make them feel better. She was there to make Black Panther look good. That's it. She wasn't there to be anything more than simply a tool. The only time she did anything of note was, again, the spy scene in the South Korean bar area thing where people went to gamble. The only other thing she did in this film was take the heart-shaped herb right before Killmonger had the whole entire herb plants burned. And I'm like, you easily could have had Shuri do that and not be no difference would have been made. Nothing would have changed. You could have had another character do it. So yeah, it's not that she's a horrible character in terms of unlikability. It's just that she's a tool. And the fact that she's supposed to be the love interest for Black Panther, that's a kind of a red mark on a character like that. Speaking of Shuri, let's get to her. If there was one character I straight up did not like, it was Shuri. Shuri is a 16-year-old girl who is T'Challa's younger sister. And I get it. She's supposed to be the innovative spirit, but she's also supposed to have some spunk, kind of be similar to Tony Stark. But there's one problem with her character. She's so fucking unlikable. I did not... Now, she had a couple funny moments here and there. But for the most part, I did not get behind this character at all. And after watching Infinity War, I can tell you that is not at all the fault of the character or of the actress. It has everything to do with the writing of Black Panther. Now, she could spit back and forth with Black Panther being siblings. That's fine. But the things she does, the little things she does, just make her unlikable. For example, she is the person, sadly, who makes the "what are those" line. Yes, the joke that was old like 10 years ago, that was made like 10 years ago, and is fucking old now. Yeah, she makes that line when apparently T'Challa wears sandals in her laboratory. And I'm like, really? Really, bitch? You had to say that shit? I would have quit right there. She's she's supposed to be very snippy, but she always does it at the wrong times. For example, instead of being, the traditionalist during the ceremony when T'Challa becomes king, she's like, get me out of this corset, it's too tight. Her mother obviously disapproves of her. And hell, even M'Baku basically chastises her for it, for two things. For one, putting her in the head of their scientific division, creating all the weapons, with no supervision whatsoever, and two, for being very disrespectful to traditions. And I'm like, I'm with M'Baku on this one. What he says makes sense. I'm with him. So yeah, It's like when you're with a guy who's supposed to be the unlikable one, and yet you like him more than her, that's a problem. She also has other unfunny, not just unfunny moments, but she also has other problems of disrespectability. For example, when Ross Ross at one point is injured in this film, and they have to bring him back to Wakanda in order to heal him. Now she does have a kind of a funny line where she says, "Another white boy for us to heal," and I'm like, I should be offended by that, but they're in Africa, so I don't mind too much. What I did mind was after Ross woke up, she was very disrespectful to him, and I'm like, the guy just fucking died. Give him a break. And because he asked, like, is this Wakanda? And she's like, no, it's Kansas. I'm like, fuck you! The guy nearly just died. I think he deserves at least some answers. That I found was fucking ridiculous. And I did not like her character. A couple funny moments and quips, and even I know she's 16 years old, so she's an immature teenager, but even immature teenagers you can get behind at some points. Here, she's just unlikable. That's all she is. She's unlikable, and is not that interesting of a character at all, on top of that. She's not that interesting, and she's unlikable. Worst character in the film, in my opinion. Speaking of, and I mentioned earlier about the effects. The effects, I'd say, for the most part, are good, except that there's some effects in here that look really cool. I think, now this is my opinion, even though they had $200 million, I think they really overblew the budget on making Wakanda look as amazing as it is, because some of the CG in this movie looks awful. I'll give you a couple of examples. The chase scene in the South Korea area where they try to hunt down Claw. There's a moment where Claw destroys the car that both Okoye and Nakia are driving in, but the actual CG for the explosion of the car and and you see all the individual pieces flying off, the CG for the car looks awful. And then you have the end of this film here, with the final action scene. That's where the CG really showed its weaknesses. You had a couple good moments of CG during the final action scene on the actual fields of Wakanda, and I'm like, the CG in there didn't bother me. What did bother me was the CG used for the Killmonger Black Panther fight on the trains. I'm like, my god, the CG looks absolutely awful. I mean, it looked good earlier when he was up on the surface, but when they went to the fight scene, oh my god, the CG looked absolutely horrendous, and I'm like, this is a $200 million budget. You had that's completely on your fault. And I'm like, at first I was like, I'll give the break because I felt like they needed more money, but I'm like, no, you had $200 million in your pocket. You should have had more ways of handling the money instead of overblowing it on either big name stars or the big name black cast, and possibly overblowing it on actually making Wakanda look good instead of making your CG effects look good, which would make even more uglier. So yeah, you had a great looking Wakanda, but at the cost of some bad CG. So you had that. You have there are a couple other issues with this film that I do have. Although there's one last issue I really want to bring up. The identity politics. Now, for the most part, the identity politics had mostly to do with the mainstream. But in this film, it had everything to do. With the fact that, yeah, while I do like the idea of the outsiders-insiders thing and that having to change, the one thing I could not get over was that it was basically a giant allegory for the wall. And keep in mind, while this film may have been in production as early as 2016, Donald Trump had made his claims, going back all the way, I think, to early 2016, that when he was running for presidency, that he would build a wall between Mexico and America. And the fact that this film was being filmed or was being in development around the same time, I'm not at all surprised. I'm surprised in the sense that, they put in the film at all, but I'm not surprised because it's like, man, the identity politics that came around this film. I should have seen this coming. But I don't mind if it's an allegory for something modern if they find a way to mask it and make it more of a story. And to be fair, they do. They actually do that. But there's a couple moments here and there where I'm just like, where I'm just fucking raking my hands in my hair. Like, there's a moment, and this is the one moment where I did not like Okiye. The one moment I didn't like her was when they have Claw in custody, and she and T'Challa are speaking in Wakandan dialect. Ross is trying to figure out what they're saying. And she's just fucking with Ross after Ross simply pats T'Challa on like the arm or something. She gets like defensive against him, even to the point where T'Challa's like, be nice to him. And she just has the throwaway line of, like, Americans. And I'm just like, fuck you! That's a moment where I have to say, fuck you. Because that is so insulting, and it's kind of racist. And speaking of the racist, there's one other moment I have to bring up. And again, another character I really like, M'Baku. When they go to M'Baku, before he reveals that T'Challa's alive, he basically shuts down any, defensive claims that Nakia, Shuri, and Ramonda have about T'Challa's supposed death. He even brings up the fact that he died in ritual combat, so it was less of a murder and more of a defeat, and the odds were fair. So they're very defensive about it. And to be fair, and yeah, Nakia does have another defensive moment where and that I do like about the film, I will admit, is when one group of people are like, look, Killmonger's of royal blood and defeated him in ritual combat. If anything, it was unfair because Zerti at one point interfered in the fight and he still won. And yet Nakia can't get over it because, of course, she loves T'Challa. Still loves her. And by the way, she and T'Challa, make a kiss at the very end of the film. And of course, she's never seen in Avengers Infinity War, which is all for the better, by the way. So yeah, you have that. You have, and it's like, I'm with Okiye and M'Baku on this one, who are kind of defending what Killmonger did because he played fair and square. Then you have, here in this film, he basically shuts down their defensive claims, but when Everett Ross tries to speak, he starts barking at him like a dog or a gorilla or something. Now, granted, he's called Gorilla. Granted, his full name is Gorilla M'Baku, but still, they basically start barking at him like dogs or like gorillas or whatever. And here's the thing. I wouldn't mind it too much if there was one little thing, because they do it probably because he's an outsider. But here's the thing. He also happens to be the only white guy in the area. All the black people around him, and the one guy you bark at is a white man. A white American, I might add. I don't care what reason they come up with, that's fucking racist no matter how you go about it. And yes, I know some people might say, oh, well, white people are racist to black people. That doesn't make it right, motherfucker. It doesn't make it right to be racist against one people. Against one people because we were once racist to them a long time ago. That's fucked up. No matter how you go away about it. So yeah, this could have been a truly all-time great film, but it got held back with the identity politics shit and the flaws in the film. With that said, this is still a pretty good film. I still found myself entertained. I still found myself invested in the movie and within the main character and main villain. Overall, I'm going to give this film a 7 out of 10. It's not as good as, say, films like Ant-Man and Thor, but it's better than Iron Man's 2 and 3. So, 7 out of 10, that's my score. Wow, this is a 54-minute video. I gotta end it here. Until next time, guys, I'll see you next time when I review Avengers Infinity War. Hopefully that'll be a shorter video. Until then, be well, stay safe, subscribe, comment, and like the buttons down below. Until next time, guys, peace.